Hello, this is Sarah Kaiser from the Boo Sewing Center. Today I would like to talk about the gathering foot for your Baby Lock or your Brother sewing machine. So the foot that I have here is the Baby Lock gathering foot. It is ESG-DS. I am going to be attaching this on a Baby Lock Crescendo. That's what I'm sitting in front of here. Baby Lock Crescendo is a high shank machine. This gathering foot is a low shank machine, so I do need to attach my S adapter so that I can put my low shank gathering foot on the machine. So I need to take the high shank foot off. Okay, and then we need to slide the S adapter on. So there's a little like moon-shaped spot on the bottom of the foot here, and it's only going to go on one way. Once you have that on, you're going to line up your screw holes and re-screw that in. I do want to make sure that that's tight on there so that doesn't fall off while we are stitching. And then we are going to attach this as well. Got my other screw. Just going to get that started. I like to get the screw in and then slide the foot on after that. That does make it a little bit easier for me. If I can, not all feet will work that well. And then I'm just going to make sure that when I put my foot down, the foot actually goes down. All right, so we have the foot attached. We need to make some changes to our stitch length and our stitch width, and I'm going to show you those settings right now. Alright, so I'm sitting in front of my stitch selection, and for this particular stitch and this particular foot, we need to do a couple of different things. So your stitch seam allowance is based on where your needle position is based on the foot. The foot has basically a gate on the right side of it, so you'll be sliding your fabric up to the edge of the gate and then moving your needle position. So I like to just start in the left needle position, and I want to increase my stitch length as long as it will go. So in this instance, I'm going to be at 5.0. The other thing that I like to do is increase my needle tension, and I was at 4.0, and I'm going to go to 5.6 or 5.5-ish, and I'm going to start there. If you have ever gathered on a sewing machine without a gathering foot or on a serger, you know, oftentimes we use the same types of techniques. We increase our stitch length, and that is going to help create the gather. So the longer your stitch length is, the more gather you're going to get. The shorter your stitch length, the less gather you're going to get. All right, the foot is on. The machine has been adjusted to the longest stitch length. I have moved my needle position all the way over to the left, and now I'm ready to test out some of my gathers. So I want you to know that I have two different types of material here. Both of these are quilter's cotton materials. However, one of them is cut, so this is the length grain, so you can see there is very little stretch. And this one is the cross grain, so this was cut from selvage to selvage. So there's a lot of stretch here. Both of these materials are exactly the same size, and we are going to gather using the same settings for both of these so that we can see what our end result are. there are two ways to gather with this foot. You can gather to something, or you can gather a plain piece of material. There is a little slot in the center here. So if you were, and we're going to do that in just a minute, if we were gathering to something, the to something would be at the top because we need to use our feed dogs in order to gather. So I'm going to start stitching. And I do like to put my hand kind of behind the foot. This helps with the gathering effect, and make sure that I'm stitching slow and guiding. You can see the material is almost pleating. And there we go. We have a nice, really cool gather. Now I'm going to do the one that doesn't have a lot of stretch. So this is the length wise grain. So we have the one that doesn't have much stretch at all, and then we have the one that has a little bit of stretch. And again, we started out exactly the same size, and you can see that the one that doesn't have any stretch at all, it gathered a little bit more. So it's not a substantial amount, but it can affect the results. So you're going to want to practice with your particular fabrics to see which one is going to give you the better results. Okay, so we are going to gather this to this. And so the flowered fabric here is going to be the one that I'm going to put on the bottom, and this pink fabric is going to be the one that is getting gathered too. So my strip is longer. I'm starting out with my gathered piece is longer than my base strip. I'm going to place them both underneath the foot. I need to make sure that my thread is out of the foot, otherwise it'll be hard for me to get this piece in. So this is going to lay at the bottom, and then this fabric right here is going to slide into this little groove on the foot. This is why when we set up the stitches earlier, I went ahead and moved my needle position all the way over to the left. That was because this now becomes my seam allowance. So as you can see, you don't get a wide seam allowance with this. It is going to be relatively narrow because there's only so many spaces that you can move your needle position left from where this little gate is on the foot. So it's very important when you are sewing that you don't pull on this fabric right here, because this is the one that's going to be gathering. So I'm going to be holding this one, and again, I'm not going to be pulling on it. I'm just going to be trying to hold it all straight. So I like to lock my stitch in place at the beginning. So I'm just hitting that drilling little button there, and then we're going to start stitching. And this is a slow process. So you're not going to be able to go super fast because it isn't going to gather real well if you do that. Now, if you hold this fabric ever so slightly, it is going to give you a little bit more gather. So if you were holding the fabric and it isn't gathering the way that you would like it, you can put just a little resistance on this top piece in order to get more gathers. And as you can see, what wants to happen is this fabric really wants to pull out to the right. So if this fabric is large enough, that's fine. If it's not, then you're going to have to make sure that you're babysitting it well enough. For this purpose, it's nice for me to be able to have this on the side here for you guys to see. And again, I'm making sure that I'm not tugging on this fabric here. I am holding the top fabric. All right, so you can see from the top just how much it really gathered. Here is our seam allowance, so we've got that nice straight stitch here, and when we flip this over, we've got a nice full gather. It is so cute. This is great for making pillows. It's also really good for the bottom of dresses, little girls' dresses, women's dresses. This is becoming popular again. If you have a serger, you could do a little petite rolled hem on the outside edge of this, and that would just be super cute. If you don't have a serger, they make rolled hem feet that you can use that would whip that around and give you a little dainty seam at the bottom. But this is how the rolled or the gathering foot works for your Baby Lock or your Brother machine. Your gathers will vary depending on the stitch length that you have set up on the machine, the amount of tension that you have on your upper thread, and the type of fabric that you have. This fabric is pretty lightweight, so it's just a regular quilter's cotton fabric. It has not been starched or there's nothing added to it. This is just cut right off the bolt. So it has a nice hand and it's very pliable. So we have the gathers. We have the two different gathers here on the different type of material. So this one was on the non-stretchy and it gathered a little bit more than the stretchy one. Ever so slightly, not substantially, but just a little bit. Okay, so that is how you use the gathering foot from Baby Lock or Brother. I hope this video was helpful. Thank you.